Am I the a-hole for completely canceling my stepdaughter's birthday bash and leaving her with nothing after I broke up with her dad? I, female 43, broke up with my ex Charlie, male 42, last spring after finding out that he cheated with his ex Sandy, female 34. We were together for 3 years, in which I was a very committed stepmother to his kid, Sarah, female 17. She and I never acted like mother-daughter, but I was the go-to adult when she had problems or needed anything because she and her mom don't get along, and my ex would try to help, but his solutions weren't very effective. 1.5 years ago, I completed a very ambitious project for a large company. I started getting paid, but bonuses and royalties only came in this year upon launching. I was so happy and so grateful that I opened accounts for my kids. I decided to gift Sarah the birthday party that she wanted. Her birthday falls in July, and she wanted a pajama party for 25 people, with a big bash, fancy cake, balloons, a DJ, and to go along with her friends to stay in a hotel out of town. This would be for her 18th birthday. So I set up a savings account under my main bank account. Charlie ended up asking me to help him fund a business idea, but I declined for a variety of reasons. We were not married, and I preferred to go solo. His business idea sucked because he was reinventing the wheel and I would be finding everything. We ended up having to close the conversation because he got angry and said he needed a helpful partner by his side, and I responded that I was taught not to give men my money. I know I was harsh and I apologized. I began to feel very insecure when Charlie started to criticize my makeup and personal style. He also praised other women to my face and I felt horrible. Early in the relationship, we had issues because of his communication with Sarah, his ex, which resulted in him promising to cut her off. Fast forward, and I began to notice that Sarah was very active in his family's social media. She gave likes and commented a lot, so I asked him if they were still in contact, because it just didn't make sense. He denied it. I went on a 10-day business trip, but our communication was very off. He would only take my calls until early in the night and became very vague about his daily activities. I couldn't reach him at all for 2 nights on several days apart. He sounded weird when we finally talked. So I lied about having to delay my return date for a few days and arrived 1 day earlier instead. I came home to find used condoms in the trash. My world was shattered and I threw up. His face changed when he saw me home. He also claimed to have been to his mother's house until late. I said I was sick when he asked what was going on and didn't mention anything. But he rushed to take out the trash and to do the laundry. I got into his phone, which I know is wrong, and found hundreds of messages from his ex. Pictures, voicemails, and conversations like they had never broken up. He consulted her about things, told her about his day, etc. Then I found a family chat that made me sick. He, Sarah, and Sandy spent a whole 2 days at a camping site last year when I went to visit family, and there were pictures from last Christmas with his ex at his mother's house. Obviously, he had a full-blown relationship behind my back, and his entire family was aware of it. I directly confronted him, and he tried to deny it until I played one of the voicemails. I couldn't take the humiliation, so I moved out weeks later. Closed the bank account for the birthday bash and kept the money for myself. I cut everything off, including his kid. He reached out in the last week of May. He pleaded with me not to take away Sarah's birthday celebration. I never replied. I know she's a teenager and that she has no control over her dad's actions, but she seems awfully comfortable in her pictures with his ex, and I feel extremely betrayed. Also, there's no way I'm funding a party that I'm not gonna attend for obvious reasons, and I don't want to contribute to a celebration so that his crappy family could eat and drink in my dime. Sarah's mom always had separate celebrations for her, and her gift was supposed to be a camping trip. My ex's family cannot afford a celebration unless they saved way in advance. My best friend says that maybe I can send Sarah a gift if I find it in myself to forgive her actions, but I don't feel like it. His sister sent me a voicemail the other day asking me to please don't turn my back on her niece. I feel awful because I know this was Sarah's dream, but I'm too disgusted to back out from my decision. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The ex he cheated with is not Sarah's mom. She's an ex-girlfriend and much younger. Her mom is also in her 40s. Now for the top comments. Don't send money. They didn't take into consideration your feelings when they were hooking up behind your back, lying to you, laughing, and what else? Why should you? They have to learn that crappy actions have consequences. C'est la vie. They are not your family anymore. You owe them nothing. Period. Best of luck. Especially when the ex is not Sarah's mom. There is no conflict of loyalty here. She doesn't care about your well-being, so why would you care about hers? Yeah, if the ex had been Sarah's mom, I could see where some lax could be given. Her grin would just be happy to be with her mom and dad. Not saying she deserved a party, but at least a gift. But a former girlfriend? Forget that. She made her choice. Not the a-hole. Sarah knew what her father was doing. His family knew and actively engaged in hiding this from you. Let them throw a Motel 6 pool party with dominoes and a boombox. You take care of yourself. It might be healthy for you to cut all ties with this group. She needs to stop talking to them and worry about herself. These people never cared about her. She was strictly an ATM who they thought they could manipulate. Screw all of them. Horrible people. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my 14-year-old son I was not his biological father after my wife had an affair on me? I, 37 male, have been married to my wife, 36 female, for 10 years. When I started dating her, she was a single mom, as her ex had fled the state after she got pregnant. My wife never wanted to tell our son that I was not his biological father. She wanted to wait till he was an adult in his 20s, and we decided on that when we married. I found out last week from one of my friends that my wife was having an affair. I confronted my wife about it. She initially denied it, but after I told her I had physical proof, I lied. She admitted to it. I asked her how long, and she said a few months. And then immediately went to my son and told him everything. I also told him I was not his biological father, that my wife has a tendency to go for these terrible men, and I made a mistake marrying her. My son was shocked and asked my wife if what I said was the truth. My wife said yes. My son then came over and hugged me and was crying, and I told him I will always consider him my son. I am now looking for a divorce lawyer, and my son has completely ignored his mom over the past week. She has tried to communicate with him many times, but he has ignored her every time. To be honest, I think it will really help me in the custody arrangements during the divorce, as my son's preference will be taken into account. My son just wants nothing to do with his mom right now. However, I do sometimes feel a bit guilty about it, but I then remember that I am the one who is the victim. Am I the a-hole? Please make sure to talk with your son to tell him none of this is his fault, and would be a good time to tell him how much you love him. Yes, for sure. I have been doing that a lot over the past week, and will continue to do that. To be honest, we were always close, but we have somehow gotten even closer over the past week. He is also self-assured. He knows it is not his fault and it is his mom's fault, and he has a steely determination and wanting nothing to do with her. If you did not legally adopt your son, then there is no custody. You didn't mention whether you adopted him or not. There could be. If OP is legally married to his mother and he's been supporting the child all these years, he could definitely fight for custody. This is a common problem, and in the US, he would most likely get joint custody. As long as he's fit as a parent, doesn't matter if the child isn't biologically his or if he hasn't adopted legally. Telling your son that you're not his biological father as an FU to your wife would make you an a-hole. But informing him of that fact, as the family dynamic is now changing for his own good, would not make you an a-hole. Like another commenter said, it would come out in the divorce anyway. I don't know what your intention was, so I'm not going to make a judgment here. It will come out in the divorce, but between now and then, the kid could be thinking it's something he did or his fault in some way. At least what OP did makes sure that the kid knows exactly what has happened and not to blame himself. If he had have said, "Hey kid, your mom cheated on me, so I'm out. Peace," then he would be an absolute a-hole. But the fact he is still there for the kid and looking into custody, that isn't the situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for following through on my threat of divorcing my wife if she didn't start taking care of herself? I am 49 years old. My wife is 48. We have been married for 23 years. When I first met my wife in college, she was energetic, fun, and simply radiant. Her love of life was infectious. We would go hiking, eat at restaurants, go to theme parks, take walks on beaches, and everything else. We both loved the outdoors. About 3 years after we got married, my wife started changing. Instead of going out, she began to become something of a couch potato. She gained weight, started sleeping less, stopped cooking, and frankly became kind of a slob. I put up with this for years. I started cooking on most nights, and I had to hide vegetables in her food for her to eat them. I started doing the dishes every night because I knew she wouldn't. When I went grocery shopping, I abstained from buying my favorite unhealthy foods because I knew she would devour them within hours. I tried to encourage her to start taking care of her health. Nothing changed. 10 years ago, I finally reached my breaking point. I sat her down and gave her an ultimatum. Start taking care of your health, because if it falls apart, I'm not going to be here to take care of you. She was very upset with me, saying in sickness and in health repeatedly. But I told her I didn't care. Again, nothing changed. I've stayed active. I go jogging every day and maintain a healthy weight. But over the past 5 years, she has reached a point where she frankly kind of disgusts me at times. It takes her 5 minutes or more to get up from her typical position of lying down on a sofa. She has started waddling hunched over. She's 48, but she honestly looks 10 years older and acts 25 years old. A month ago, I finally got her to go to the doctor. Another one of her reckless behaviors is never going in for checkups. They discovered that she's on the verge of type 2 diabetes, has a mild case of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and her blood pressure is concerningly high. Naturally, after receiving such news, on the way home from the hospital, she swung by a fast food restaurant to get some food and a shake. The other day, I sat her down and told her that I simply refuse to be a caretaker for someone who's not even 50 yet. I told her I would be filing for divorce, but left how we do it up to her, either through lawyers or through a cooperative splitting of assets. She's absolutely furious with me, and my parents seem to be on her side. Am I really the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. She is giving no effort, so why should you? Everyone deserves to be happy. Clearly she isn't, and making bad choices and taking away her happiness. Life is short, and it moves quicker as you get older. Get your happy back. I'm 55, Hub 63. His health was getting in a bad place. Lots of medications. 2 years ago, started getting up at 3:30 a.m. to hit the gym before work. Lost 40 pounds and damn buff. This with a titanium knee. We cook together again and outdoor active. She needs a counselor and buy-in. If not, she's doing what she wants to. You get to do the same. You have a wonderful relationship. It's clear that you love him a lot. Has your wife been treated for depression? She has to want to be treated. If she doesn't, OP shouldn't have to wait until she does. Info. While I am not qualified to diagnose, this sounds to me like it started with depression. Has she sought therapy or other help in that direction? I've suspected the same in the past, but she has never been diagnosed with depression. She has never made the slightest effort to address any of her health issues. Come to think of it, I don't even remember the last time she went to the dentist. Depression. Regardless of a diagnosis, that's what it sounds like. But as long as she refuses to go to the doctor and acknowledge there is a problem, there is not much she can do. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting a post-nup with my husband after finding out he has a child? Recently, my husband's ex from high school showed up, saying they had a child together 13 years ago and their daughter now wants to get to know him. They broke up right after high school and went to different unis. They were already broken up when she found out she was pregnant, and since she wanted to go to med school, her parents offered to take care of the baby, but apparently banned her from telling my husband. I'm 100% supportive of my husband getting to know his daughter, but at the same time, I have some financial concerns. I came into this marriage with more assets. I earn more than him, and financial stability is very important to me. The thought of something happening to him and losing part of my asset to this child terrifies me. Sharing everything with my husband never bothered me before because that's part of marriage, but him suddenly having a daughter is not what I signed up for. Therefore, I want a post-nuptial agreement that protects my assets. When I told this to my husband, he got very frustrated with me, saying that he just found out he has a daughter and he wasn't in her life for the first 13 years. He is still in shock, and one of the first things I do is come at him with a post-nup, making it seem like I'm preparing to divorce him. I think I'm justified in wanting a post-nup, and I've spent the last 2 months being extremely supportive of him and helping him manage the situation. I don't see why wanting a peace of mind for myself is that bad. But one of my friends also said that I'm kind of an a-hole for bringing up a post-nup, and it's not like my husband is likely to die anytime soon that makes me really need this. Am I the a-hole? Not a-hole. This mom could sue him for back child support and current child support. OP needs to ensure everything is based on her husband and not joint income or assets. I think she's smart for this. I think it's important to do it quickly. I would ask for the same. I'm sure he was shell-shocked, but so was she. We are talking paying for school, cars, college, insurance, etc. It's important to get ahead of it. People focus on the emotional aspects of this kind of thing, which isn't wrong, but it's equally important to nail down the legal part. They need to establish the kid's paternity medically and legally, establish child support, update wills, insurance, etc. And updating things legally for OP is a part of that, and no less important than any other part. So yes, it needs to be addressed, and this is no longer a brand new issue. 2 months have gone by. The comment that it's not like OP's husband is likely to die tomorrow is idiotic. The reason these kinds of things are important is that it's not just about the likelihood of something happening. And the fact of the matter is, he could die in a freak accident tomorrow, as could any of us. It's also about the likely consequences of dying without these issues taken care of, which are potentially severe. Small chance of event, but potentially severe consequences if you're not prepared. So you adult up and take care of it. It's why all this stuff exists. Wills, child support agreements, legal documents defining what happens to the kid if one or the other parent dies. It can seem alternately boring or scary, but this stuff exists for a reason. Yeah, this. He absolutely needs to get a paternity test done, reliably, before agreeing to anything. And again, yes, people do die accidentally or of brain aneurysms, etc. Unpredictable sudden stuff all the time. It's a possibility. Not a-hole. You gave him 2 months. The news is big, but he's an adult, and life isn't always gonna be smooth sailing. He had a shock and now he needs to prepare, and so do you. Protect yourself and your assets. Exactly. If she threw out the post-nup after week 1, this would be a different conversation. But after 2 months, it's time to think logistics and the reality of the situation. Different states and countries have different rules on what kids get both for child support and if the worst happens. OP is trying to protect herself from a situation no one would have prepared for. Maybe the state won't require back support because he didn't know. Maybe it'll just look at his income and assets, not what's considered marital assets. Maybe a million other things. OP has no way of knowing right now and needs to be logical instead of emotional about the situation.